again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video we're going to be doing a bit of a restring on this guitar. It's an Epiphone Wildkat. I've been doing quite a bit of guitar restringing recently. All my guitars seem to need strings at the same time, but I thought I'd do a video on this one because it's got a Bigsby, and Bigsby trems are a little bit awkward to set up. There's a bit of a knack to getting the strings through without things flying off all over the place. So I thought I'd video the process and just talk about generally what's involved with just doing a bit of sort of routine maintenance on the guitar. So let's go get it on the bench and get started. Right then, so let's just run through the things that we need to do the job. Obviously we need a set of strings, and today I'm going to be stringing up with a set of Ernie Ball regular slinky 10 to 46 gauge. Generally I go for 9s on my Fender scale guitars, but the Epiphone has got a Gibson scale length 24 3/4, a little bit shorter, so for that I prefer slightly thicker strings, so we're going for the 10 to 46s. A few tools that we need to do the job: string winder, string cutter. Very, very useful tool. If you haven't got one of those, I advise you to get one. Not essential, but it will make your life a lot easier. Certainly one thing you will need is a set of wire cutters. This string winder's got a set of string cutters built in, but if you haven't got one of those, then wire cutters are essential. To be honest, I actually prefer precision wire cutters rather than just the string snips that's on the string winder. A few other things for kind of cleaning of your guitar. First off, as lemon oil. Now, a lot of people will tell you you don't need lemon oil for your fingerboard. You do. You need something to clean and condition the fingerboard. Traditionally, people have used lemon oil. I don't use lemon oil, and I know quite a few guitar techs who use lemon oil as a cleaner, but not as a fretboard conditioner. So we've got some lemon oil to help us clean the fingerboard. But for the actual conditioning, I'm going to be using some Monty's Guitars instrument food, which is like wax. So the lemon oil, it's got some mineral, it's basically mineral oil with a lemon scent to it. Gets rid of all of the gunk and the dirt. This is a wax, and it actually nourishes the fretboard. If you're cleaning, something else you might find useful is lighter fluid. Basically, this is like the liquid, not the aerosol. Basically, this is naphtha, so that's very good for cleaning stubborn stains off your guitar. And for polishing, of course, we want polisher and cleaner. So that's some Dunlop Formula 65, which I've used before and I find quite good. General tools that will come in handy. I don't think I'm going to have to be adjusting truss rods or anything like that, but it's always useful to have a set of Allen keys, flathead and Phillips head screwdrivers. Useful things. Swiss Army knife is just a good thing to have, so I've usually got a Swiss Army knife to hand. Something is like a guitar headrest, so I've got one of these folding D'Addario guitar headrests, which will be useful for keeping the guitar in place while we're working on it. Something to tune your guitar, clip-on tuner. So you definitely need something to check the tuning on your guitar. And because it's a Bigsby, you will see why a capo or capo, depending on what side of the Atlantic you are on, is a useful tool. It makes the job of stringing up a Bigsby a lot easier. In terms of things that we need to do the job, I think that's about it. Oh no, I missed a couple of things. Some clean cloths just for applying all of the various cleaning products, and of course a mug of coffee. So let's get this lot cleared away and get the guitar down on the bench and we can get started. Okay, so we're going to start by taking the original strings off. That's where the string winder is really useful, because you don't have to put a load of effort into winding the strings by hand. This does the job a lot easier. You could of course be incredibly lazy and get one of those string winders that fits onto the end of a cordless drill or something like that. I'm not that lazy. I'm just quite happy just to use one of these. Now I could just cut the strings with a wire cutter and take them off that way. That generally is not good practice. If you've got the strings that are under and they're under tension, and then you suddenly cut them, It can shock the machine heads a little bit. It's just not good for the guitar. Modern guitar with, you know, nicely fashioned modern tuners shouldn't be a problem. But certainly with older guitars, like a vintage guitar, I wouldn't dream of just cutting a string while it's under tension. It's much better just to take the tension off a little bit before you remove them. Also, you've got a bit more control. If you cut a string while it's under tension, it's going to fly around all over the place. These being slack, I can take these off a little more easily. So I'm just going to cut them sort of part way along, unwind around the the post on the tuner, and then take them off the bridge, and then we can get on to cleaning the guitar up. So you see there, I'm cutting the strings just with the string cutter on the string winder. Then the strings aren't flying around all over the place because they're under tension. Much safer. No danger of taking a chunk out of me, or poking me in the eye as it going flying around, or scratching the finish on the guitar. So take the strings off, just wind them around, loop them like that so they're not going to fly around all over the place out of control. Taking care not to poke the end of your finger or your thumb with the sharp end of the string. Hopefully this is going to be a blood-free process. I don't know how well the light's catching that. Now I've taken the strings off. You can see all the dust on the headstock there. So that's part of the reason why we need to clean this guitar up before we put these strings on. Strings on a Bigsby are fitted to the bridge in a slightly strange way, which I'll explain later when we come to putting the strings on. The thing with the Bigsby, it's all about these little, I'll do a close-up, but these little posts that the strings hook onto. Okay, so one question I often get asked is, how often do I need to change the strings on my guitar? When do I need to change the strings on my guitar? Now, obviously, if you snap a string, you need to replace that. Whether you replace just that one string or all 6 depends on how old the strings are, and just routine replacement of strings depends on how old they are. There's various factors. It's the age of the string, but also it really depends on you, your personal body chemistry, how acidic your sweat is. Some people have very acidic sweat that really corrodes the strings and just kind of kills the liveliness of the string. Generally, if you know that your strings need replacing, then you've gone past the point where you should have replaced them. Guitar strings, they'll lose some of the brightness and the ability to sustain a note as time goes on. Just kind of metal fatigue, the fact that you keep hitting them with a pick just wears them down. Generally, that's a sign that they're going before they start to rust. If they feel rusty, if you can really feel them under your strings, then you're way past the point where you should have changed the strings. You tend not to notice so much on a day-by-day basis because the strings, if you're playing every day, the variance and the brightness of the sound of the string is really really slight, and you may not notice it on a day-to-day basis. But certainly over time, you will notice a difference. So let's say if your strings start to feel a little bit dead, not as lively as they used to be, then now's the time. Don't wait before they get all rusty and a sort of crinkle cut type of effect. Okay, so that's just got the strings off, clean some surface dust off the guitar, all the bits of dust that get in between the pickups, so dust off the pick and skin dust and whatnot. It's all a bit disgusting, really. All I'm going to do is take the bridge off, and before you take, because if I tip the guitar upside down, this will fall off. When you take a bridge like this off, make a note of which way is forward, which way is back. So this one, the string adjuster, the thing for adjusting the saddles, is towards the pickups. So I'll take that off, just set that to one side. that clean. There's various bits of muck on the pickups here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off doing the fingerboard. I clean that, and then that can kind of be working whilst I'm cleaning the rest of the guitar. So first off, that is looking rather grubby. I might give it a quick go with some lemon oil. I don't think it's so bad that it needs the naphtha, the lighter fluid, but certainly I'm going to put some lemon oil there and give that a good old scrub and get some of the dirt and the grime out of the fingerboard, all of the organic matter that's come off my my fingers while I've been playing. So give that a good scrub. It doesn't matter, you know, it's not going to hurt the metal or the plastic binding, so you can just rub over the frets and over the binding and make sure you really work the lemon oil into the wood. As I said, this isn't a conditioner, this is cleaning the wood, helping to lift the grime out. I'll go over with some instrument food later, and that will help to condition the wood, keep it moist. You know, you don't want the wood drying out. That's when frets start to lift and you get fret sprout and nasty things like that. So going over, I don't know how well that's showing up on the camera, there's a little bit of dirt coming out on the cloth. I'm just going to let that lemon oil sit and soak for a little bit. Put that to one side and get to work on cleaning the guitar itself. Actually, those pickups are a little bit grubby. I might just go over those with the lemon oil infused. Or shall I use naphtha? I'll just use I know I'm going to use some naphtha for that. Put some of that onto a soft cloth. So this is a good solvent and just helps to clean all of the gunk off there. So again, this is all just nasty stuff like dead skin and grime, sweat, and all the stuff that comes off, basically comes off me while I'm playing the guitar. So I'll just rub that cloth over there on the face of the guitar. Also, I'll give the headstock's not too bad. So that's the lighter fluid, just helps to clean the body. And what I'll do now is get some guitar polish. This is pretty powerful stuff. Don't spray it on the guitar, spray it onto a cloth and then from the cloth onto the guitar. So a couple of squirts and then just go over the surface of the guitar. And that will just polish it up. This is a really nice looking guitar. It's for the price point, it's very attractive. It's not a flame maple top. It's a maple top, but then the maple top's got a flame maple veneer. But flame maple is very, very attractive. And when the light catches that flame maple, you know, the grain really, really pops and really catches it. It looks absolutely lovely. But if you've got a layer of grime and dirt, it's not going to look its best. So that's why we want to give the guitar a good clean. Let's go on the sides. Like I say, the polish, you don't need a lot of it. It's pretty strong stuff. Also do the headstock. Yeah, the story on this guitar, I bought it. Somebody put Epiphone Wildkat onto my radar a few years ago. Basically one that had a very nice core top, and gold hardware, and the Bigsby and all that jazz. When I went to look for one, I couldn't find one, but obviously I'm just going to flip the guitar over here and do the back. I did find this was just basically a standard model of the Wildkat, and I was quite taken with it because I haven't played a guitar with a Bigsby for an awfully long time. So I thought that could be a bit of fun, and had P90s. I didn't have a guitar with P90s at the time. and I expected I'd get it, play it for a few months, and 6 months, 9 months, whatever, and then probably move it on. But I really came to love it, and it's been in the guitar arsenal for I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 years now, and still really enjoy playing it. It's got things that other guitars of mine don't have, and for me that's the justification for having a guitar, is if it provides you something that you don't have in other instruments. I've got guitars with single coils, I've got guitars with humbuckers, guitars with vintage trems, guitars with Floyd Roses or whatever. This guitar's party piece it's got the P90s and it's got the Bigsby trem, and it does the job very, very nicely. And oops, spray out the Bigsby. So the fact that it's got something other guitars don't have, for me, sort of like justifies its place in the collection. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is clean off the excess lemon oil. As I say, lemon oil is basically mineral oil with the scent of lemons infused into it. It's not from lemons, it's not from lemon tree, it's not from lemon fruit. It's not a natural product at all. It's actually pretty nasty stuff. I'm debating whether or not I should be doing this with bare hands or whether or not I should have a pair of gloves on. I'm probably okay. I'm going to wash my hands straight after this anyway. So clean all the excess off, and the fingerboard's looking a lot better. I don't know how well it was showing up on the camera before, but certainly for me in the room, you could almost see like the marks of where the strings had been and where my fingers had been pressing down on the strings. Now though, it's just looking like nice, consistent, smooth rosewood with no marks or blemishes or evidence from my playing. Now I could polish the frets, if you're doing a really thorough job, but actually these aren't too bad. So I'm just rubbing them with the cloth here. They're looking pretty shiny. The point of polishing frets, apart from the fact that it looks really, really nice, is the more polished a fret is, obviously the smoother it is. So when you're playing, and particularly when you're string bending, it's just a better playing experience. So that's why fret polishing is important. It's not just a cosmetic thing. Look at the dirt that's coming off the fingerboard there. Okay, so that's fingerboard is clean. Guitar's polished. Last thing I'm going to do on the fingerboard is put on some fretboard conditioner. A few different products you can get to do fretboard conditioning. I'm going to be using Monty's Guitars Instrument Food. This is basically a beeswax type of product. It's got quite a nice, slightly citrus scent. I think it's got grapefruit or orange or something scent to it. All natural. I'd heard good things about this, and a few years ago I had the opportunity to do an interview. It's on the YouTube channel if you want to go and have a look at it. I did an interview with Matt Gleason from Monty's Guitars, and he explained the origins of instrument food. So this is technically just a beeswax type of thing. So I'm going to put a dollop of that in each fret, and we'll go down and work it into the fingerboard. Matt was explaining, because a big part of the work that Monty's Guitars do is tech services, tweaking and maintaining people's guitars. And as Matt explained, part of keeping a guitar healthy is keeping the wood nourished and stopping it from drying out. Lemon oil is good as a cleaner, but something like instrument food is better for nourishing the wood and keeping it from drying out. I mean, if you think beeswax, traditionally it's used in woodworking and furniture making as a as a wood finishing product. So it kind of makes sense to put it on a guitar. So we'll work that in. So quite an elbow grease heavy job this. And thankfully it's a reasonably warm day today. So combination of the ambient temperature in the room and the heat from me doing this will just work the wax into the wood. I probably need to go through and clean up a little bit of excess, but because I was working with that naphtha and the lemon oil and things which might be on my hands, I'm just going to quickly go and wash my hands and get any nasties off, and then we'll come back and then hopefully the wax will be worked in and I can take off the excess and get on with restringing the guitar. Right, I am back. Smelly products removed from my hands. I'll get one more cloth. And I'm just going to go down, give the fretboard a good rub, get rid of any excess wax. When you're doing a job like this, it's a good opportunity to just give your guitar a once over, just check out how's it looking in terms of fret wear. Because I play with an incredibly light touch. So I generally don't wear down frets that badly. I think the only time I've actually had a guitar refretted was because I actually wanted to change in profile of fret wire rather than the fact that the frets were worn out and needed replacing. So generally when I'm doing something like this, I don't see a whole lot of damage to the frets. You know, there's a little bit there down by the cowboy chord area. There's a little bit of wear and tear, but nothing that causes me any sort of concern. The important thing is that the frets are level and smooth. If you want to check that, you can go down with a fret rocker or some sort of straight edge, just on sets of 3 frets, and if you've got a high fret, then the fret rocker will rock, and that's an indication that you need to get a bit of care and maintenance with a fret file just to get everything leveled off. I checked these last time I did a setup on this guitar, and all was good, so I'm not experiencing any playing problems with it, so I continue to believe that all is good, so I'm not going to be worrying about wonky frets. Right, the fretboard is cleaned, the fretboard is nourished, the guitar is generally cleaned and polished. Let's just clear up some of this rubbish. So we'll get rid of the stuff we don't need and bring on the stuff that we do. So, like I say, we're going to be putting on these Ernie Ball regular slinkies. How much did I pay for those? £7.29. You're probably looking at that and thinking, Dave, you idiot, why were you paying £7.29 for a set of strings? You could buy them online from X for less than that. Well, the reason I paid what I did was I bought them in a bricks and mortar guitar store because I like supporting bricks and mortar guitar stores. Now, if I'm visiting a town that I haven't been to before, I always like to go around and check out the guitar shops, and I'm not going to go and buy a guitar every time I go to a guitar store, but what I can do is show them a bit of support by just buying a set of strings or some picks or whatever. But well, not picks nowadays because I run my own pick business, but certainly I usually buy a set of strings on my way. I'm going to use them anyway, so there's no harm in buying a set of strings. Right, now we're getting to the tricky bit where we're going to put the strings on, and this is where a Bigsby trem is a little bit of a problem. I'm going to just move things around on the camera so you can see what's what. The Bigsby tremolo system. Why is this different to string up compared to other types of guitar? It's because the strings don't pass through a hole in a Bigsby the way that they do with regular guitar bridges. It's all about these little hook things. So what we want is the string to go underneath this retaining bar. So it'll go under there, it goes around the back of here, and the ball end of the string goes through sorry, the pin goes through the ball end of the string. So it's important if you've got a Bigsby guitar, you string up, we're using ball end strings that have the hole in them. Those strings like the Fender Bullets, where there's just the slug of metal, fine for Fender type guitars, not so good for Bigsby type trems. One tool which I forgot, which is very handy for a job like this, is something like a set of needle nose pliers. What we can do, so the camera screen is not directly in front of me, so I'm kind of doing this at an odd angle. What we can do is hold the wrap part of the string end, hold the ball end of the string, and just bend that over like at a 90-degree bend, so you can see where the hole in the ball is in line with the string. So we put the string underneath the under the retaining bar here, and the string needs to go under, and that ball end just hooks onto the that pin. We pull the string tight. Now you need to keep pulling that tight so it doesn't slip off, like it's trying to do there. It doesn't slip off that pin. This is kind of one of those jobs where you need 3 hands, which is why I said we need a capo. So because the string's anchored there, it's not going to slip off the peg at the end. Oh, one thing I'm doing this out of order. One thing I want to do before I put the strings on actually is lubricate the nut. So this is just to stop the strings getting stuck. This isn't the best nut in the world. If you've got something like a graphite nut, then that's generally friction isn't a problem. If you've got a plastic nut or something, using either pencil lead, or in this case I'm going to be using a little bit of the instrument food wax. Just going to tear myself off a bit of cloth. Just get a tiny amount of this. I mean, you don't need a lot. It's just enough to go into the string slots. So I'm going to clean off lots of excess for you. And it just means that as the strings are going through those slots on the nut, they've got some lubrication. The wax is nice and slippy. The strings will glide through, they won't stick, and that helps you avoid any tuning stability problems. Okay, just clean that up. Right. Now we're ready to put the strings on. So the string through the hole in the tuning peg. And we want a little bit of slack. Take it around the tuner. Bend it, wrap it, and then just wind it on. And when you're winding strings on, generally you want to take them going down over, so you get a decent break angle over the nut. As that's coming tight, what I'll do is take that capo off. Just make sure it's on properly at the bridge. Just tune this up to tension. That should seat itself properly in the bridge. So a bit fiddly, 1 down, 5 to go. I'm going to work in, say, 6 and 1, 5 and 2, 4 and 3. So first string. Also, and the and power. through the whistle. So we've got one wrap going like over where the string comes through the hole in the tuning peg, and then the other ones are going to go below, and they kind of sandwich that end of the string and help to stop it from slipping, and it all helps with tuning stability. I don't know why I'm doing this by hand. I've got a string winder, but never mind. So people find restringing Bigsby's a bit tricky. It's all to do with these tuning, so these string pins, and the fact that the string wants to slip off them. The trick very much is to use the capo just to keep things in place at the bridge while you're working on getting the string through the tuners. And last one, the third string. Point to mention on the wrapping the string around the tuning posts, you've got more string than you actually need. You know, the string manufacturers always leave a little bit slack. So don't wrap the entire string. You want 2 or 3 wraps around the posts for the unwound strings, and maybe a couple of wraps around the tuning pegs, the tuning posts for the wound strings. Any excess, just let it go through. You can always trim that off. If you just wrap loads and loads of excess string around the tuning post, that eventually will want to just settle out. The tension in the string will want to pull the string around, and again, that's a tuning stability issue. So only put as much string through the tuning post as you absolutely need to. So check down the bridge here, make sure that all the strings are seated properly on the saddles. This one isn't, so I'm just going to get a pointy thing. This will do, just to push it up so it's seated properly, because eventually the string tension will make that slip. Okay, that's all strung up. Now let's get the guitar in tune. Okay, so this is a little chromatic tuner. Not particularly like super accurate. It's not like using a strobe tuner or anything, but it gets me into the ballpark. And for now, all I'm interested in doing is just basically getting the strings roughly to tune, because I'll need to give them a good stretch. And that's all about, again, helping this tuning stability, getting the strings properly settled. So we just tune them up. Being a tremolo system, as one string comes into tune, there's extra tension along here. It will pull at the bridge slightly and knock the other strings out of tune. It's not as extreme as it would be with something like a Stratocaster tremolo or a Floyd Rose or anything like that, but that string obviously was much closer to E, even though I was only tuning roughly. It was much closer to E than it is now. So just go through another pass, get the other strings up to tune, or thereabouts. This isn't about tuning the guitar up, it's about getting the strings roughly in tune. And what we're going to do now is just give the strings a good stretch. So this is partly it's partly stretching the string, but somebody did tell me that really it's not so much that you're stretching the string. You know, these strings are measured out, argument's sake, 10,000ths of an inch. It will still be 10,000th of an inch by the time you've finished stretching it. Really what the stretching process is doing, more than stretching the string, getting it comfortable under tension, it's just about getting it settled in, like at the tuning peg, at the bridge, the points where there's a little bit of an opportunity for the string to settle. So what we're doing here is just getting the string nice and tight and getting it settled in place. So when we do tune it up, and in playing terms, it will be more a little bit more stable. So as you can see, that string has dropped quite a bit in pitch from what it was. Let's tune it up. So I'll just go through and rough it in. We'll go through and tune it properly after that. Yeah, the reason I'm only saying rough it in first time is just about getting the strings roughly balanced at the trem, because as I say, was a tune one string, the other ones the tension will possibly pull the other ones slightly out. So get them there or thereabouts, and the trem is reasonably balanced. Now we can go through and be a bit more precise about what we're doing. So bring this string up. Now there I tuned just a little bit too sharp. If you do that, it's tempting. So if you take your string a little bit too sharp, just turn the tuner back until it's in tune. Don't take it flat again, and it's always better to wind the string up and into tune. So take it down and bring it up. It's just the way that the string's held in the tuning machine. It's more stable if you always tune up to the note. Last thing to check is the intonation. So this is basically that the fretted note at the 12th fret is the same note as the open string or the harmonic at the 12th fret. Shouldn't be an issue here because I haven't really changed anything other than the strings. I haven't had to adjust the neck relief. I haven't adjusted the truss rod. Haven't changed the action. I'm using the same gauge strings as were on the guitar to begin with. So all those factors that would normally affect the intonation, they don't apply. So hopefully everything is still all good. So we check that the open string is in tune. And we check the harmonic. And we check the fretted note. So it's wavering around ever so slightly. I'm going to tune this really, really accurately with my TC Polytune. But this is good, just to basically show what we're doing. Check the B string is in tune. That's the 12th fret harmonic for the B. And that's the fretted note for the B. Try not to knock the E string while I'm working there. Same with the G string. So because these are new strings, they're starting to slip out of tune slightly, even though I stretched them. So harmonic, fretted note, harmonic, fretted note. Okay, that's all good. The guitar is in tune, the intonation is good, we've cleaned it up, we've conditioned the fretboard. Last thing to do is just to tidy up all of these loose ends with some wire cutters. So really all we're doing here is just taking the excess string off, or being very careful not to actually cut any of the string that's wrapped around the tuning post. Right, so a fresh set of strings on there. That's feeling a lot nicer to play. I'm going to have a bit of fun now, just sit down, have a bit of a jam. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click like down there. If you really enjoyed it and you want to see other videos that I post on the channel, then please click subscribe, which is also down there, and click that bell icon next to it. That way you get notified of any new videos that I upload onto the channel. You're welcome to leave a comment, but I don't always get notified by YouTube when people leave comments on videos, so if there's anything you want to ask me specifically, whether it's about guitar gear, guitar playing, music theory, anything at all, you're better off going here, fill that form in, send your question in, it comes direct to me, and I can get around to answering your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.